There's a version of music history we like to believe. The artist writes the song, the artist performs it, the artist becomes a star. And everything else in that world is just in support of that. But that version of the story is very incomplete. Because if you know the music industry, you know that sometimes if you remove the artist, the song might still exist. But if you remove the producer, the entire sound disappears. And Nigerian pop music has always understood this, even when we don't say it out loud, because in that ecosystem, the producer is not behind the music, they are inside it, shaping it, directing it, designing what the artist will become. I am Adeolua, and this is Losing the Plot. Hey guys, welcome back, welcome back. Thank you for joining me. I say us all the time, like it's more than just me. It's just me. Oh, it's just me. Today's episode. If you are new here, welcome to Losing the Plot, a weekly podcast, which is insane because this is what episode 19. It's been 19 consistent weeks of talking and dissecting popular culture, mostly through music. We've had a couple of film episodes, but mostly through music to understand how these systems work and also kind of understand what lessons we can glean from them, either as artists or as listeners, just giving context to the world around us and the things that shape it, right? And if you're a return crown plotter, welcome back. Today we are going to be talking about producers, and I, I, I find it interesting. I think that it has, I guess, taken me this long to have this thought about producers because some of my favorite people in the music industry and in just music in general are producers. Every song and every sound fad that has existed that continues to exist is result of, yes, the artist, because the artist is the brand and we get to know the artist and we get to love the artist, but we don't get to the sound that we all love without the input and the collaboration and the everything that comes with production and producers, right? And today's episode specifically, I'll be kind of centering some of my thoughts around the importance of producers to music and artistry, centering my thoughts using one particular person, just because I find it to be so fascinating. But again, I think this is an episode I'm probably going to do a lot of, just using different producers, because producers are very important to the network, to the not network, to the bone and marrow of music as we know it and we love it. Now there are artists that produce their records as well, and there are artists that don't get recognition for producing their work. So I do want to kind of give that caveat. I think one example that comes to mind is Mariah Carey. So Mariah Carey is a songwriter and a producer, but throughout her career, consistently, something that she's had to fight for as a name. Aretha Franklin used to produce her own records back in the day, but there was this kind of thought that if you were the voice or the talent, you just sang, and there were songwriters and there were producers. And over time that evolved to kind of the opposite, where we now have kind of, well, not now anymore, but there was a point in time when we had kind of like, I wouldn't say producer erasure, where it was like, oh, the artist is the thing and the artist writes a song and whatever. So producers are important. And for those that might not know what a producer is, because there are also different types of producers as well. There are producers that are more beat makers, so there are producers that like they come up with the flow or the beat sounds, and they send it to the artist and the artist records. And there are producers that are vocal producers. I actually, let me plug myself in real quick. On May 15 I'm releasing my first song in like 2 years. It's called Flow. I think my best work yet. I'm really, really proud of it. And it's coming out on May 15. And I'm plugging myself. So plugging out on May 15. Go pre-save it on Spotify. Adelua Music, link in bio. It's there. Please go do that. Other things. Thank you. But I remember that because on for Flow, I worked with a vocal producer for Flow, which was very I've worked with vocal producers before on different records, but for Flow specifically, there were things I wanted to do, and there were things I wanted to do, and there was a kind of vibe I wanted to go for. So I worked with the vocal producer to help me bring that to life. And what that looked like in that particular session was her sitting behind the boards with the studio engineer, and then us like kind of going through the song section by section, because I had already recorded a demo. Well, it wasn't a demo. I recorded I recorded the song, and then I was like, I recorded the song and it wasn't bad at all. It's just like I wasn't super satisfied with my performance, and I knew it could be better, but I didn't know all. I knew it could be better, and I knew my references, but I didn't know all the ways I could make it better by myself. So I hired a vocal producer, and they're not cheap, you guys. I had a vocal producer, and what it looked like was like she sat next to the studio engineer. I was in the booth, and we'd go section by section, and I would say what I liked about the demo or the vision I had already and what I wanted to improve. And then she would also give her like professional opinion on like, oh, we don't need this here, because they're like, I think my favorite example like, were like in the bridge. I had a different bridge, like I had a different bridge structure, and she was just like, what if we move this around? And she told me to try some things, and it sounded really great, and we kept it. So that's a vocal producer. So she all she worked on, or the thing that she came to work on, was my singing. And there's also, before, I guess using myself as an example still, before we got to the point where a vocal producer will come in, I had two producers. I don't know what to call them, but like two producers in the more technical sense of production, where we were collaborating. So and again, this changes. I'm giving these examples to say that who we call the producer changes kind of from song to song, artist to artist. So I'll give a couple of examples that I know of. Let me finish using my own self as an example first. So for Flow again, I've had the idea for Flow for years. Like it's something that's like one of those things that sits in your voice memo. I think every musician has like those songs, like you write it, they come to you so easily, and you're just like kind of waiting for the moment to make them or to release them. And I never felt that moment up until last year. And I also had this song while I was thinking through like my love for Flow, just to show you how long I've had Flow. I made a song called Hallucinate. So Hallucinate is like in my thinking, like I have Old Ways, Hallucinate, and Flow, and those three songs are like in the same. They're like brothers and sisters, and each is like a slightly more progressed version. Like you can see me grow as an artist in each one. And so I was like, oh, I really love for the longest time. Hallucinate was like my favorite song I've ever made, but like I knew that I could up the ante with Flow. So I had the idea, and so but I knew the thing I wanted to do, and this is like me as a producer, the thing that I wanted to do with Flow was I wanted it to be recorded by live session musicians. So I've said before about producers who are beat makers, right? So Hallucinate, for example, was a song made like with a producer that is a beat maker. So Brian made the beat for Hallucinate. I'm trying to make it as live as possible, but that's the vibe of Hallucinate. But for Flow specifically, because of my references for the song, I wanted it to be like live session musicians. So then as a producer, I get these live session musicians on. For me, it's a bit of a more uphill battle as a producer because I don't have music theory knowledge. So a lot of my production style is doing ums and dum dum a lot of dum and pulling up references of songs. I'm like, oh, I want the snare to sound like the snare in this song. I want the kick to sound like the kick in this song. I want the strings to sound like the strings in this song. Knowing exactly what I want because I don't have that music theory knowledge. So I did that with the live session musicians, and we got like a really good like place with the form. And then my other co-producers came in, and they have music theory knowledge, and they immediately, like, because I had laid the ground with my references and this structure and the bones of the song, like, oh, we know exactly what you need, like, and they were right. Like they knew exactly what I needed, so they were able to add on to the bare bones I made with the structure I had. So they gave suggestions they gave melody suggestions, they had added instruments and things like that. So like we worked collaboratively to make. So they were not beat makers per se. So they didn't make. There's no beats in everything you hear on Flow or when it comes out is live off the floor recorded. But a lot of it was like, let's go on. For example, there was time when we were recording snaps. So like we all got to studio and started snapping and things of that nature. So we produced a record together. And then there are also producers where the artist, for example, kind of like what I did, but in a way where the artist will. I know Chloe Bailey does this a lot, where she will go in the studio and put things together as an artist. Like she puts together the bones of the song, but like with her MIDI keyboard on her own hands, and then she will send it to like Murder on the Beat or something. Then they will add stuff and they will send it back to them. Actually, yeah. So like that, there's a different ways to produce, right? So that's my point. Like there are different production styles, different ways to produce, and the different people that we call producers. All that to say that the producer essentially makes the song. So whether the artist is involved or whether the artist is not involved, the producer is essentially brings together the sound that the song carries. And throughout history, there have been producers who have really locked into, or no, tapped into something in the zeitgeist sonically that everybody gets excited by. So like, for example, off the top of my head, I think about Timbaland's work, Dark Child. I think about Pharrell. Those are producers that like they find something. They find you know what I want to think. I actually want to talk about say in that vein as well is Davido's producer. I forget his name now. Let me see if I can pull him up real quick. Davido's producer, Shizzy. Is it Shizzy? Am I thinking about Shizzy? I don't think I'm thinking about Shizzy. No, not Shizzy. I think I'm thinking about Fresh. I'm thinking about Fresh and Spiroach. Probably more Spiroach, but there was a time between I want to say 2015 to 2019. There's a very recognizable 30 BG DMW sound that Fresh and I think Fresh and Spiroach, I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, please let me know. Are the authors of, but it's a sound that kind of leaks through Nigerian pop music at that time. And I don't think I think because for whatever reason, I don't think that they get a lot of credit for being the people that really owns that. So I'm thinking about like the sound on Mind. Is it called Mind? Mind by DMW. There's a very Davido sound of that time that they are, and I believe, I could be wrong again, but I believe that Peruch and Fresh worked together a lot. Two other people, yeah. Mind, that the sound of Mind is very of that time, and it leaks through a lot of Nigerian popular music of that time. Also, Pheelz and Young John, who have done the incredulous thing of being able to have careers not only as producers but also as artists. But Young John and Pheelz are responsible for a lot of early YBNL songs, albums actually, especially with Olamide, but also with Kesh, with Adekunle Gold. And again, these are people who like they are tapping into something that sound that they tap into become the collective consciousness of popular music at that time. So they influence a lot of people, and that sound really sticks, right? So all that to say that a producer can be the different types of producers, and producers are very important in defining an era of music as well. To that point, something that a critique that comes up a lot about the 2020s is that there is no 2020 sound. When you look back at the 2010s or the 90s or the 80s or the 70s or the 60s or the 50s, there's a like when somebody plays a song from the 60s, like, oh, that's from the 60s, or someone plays a song from the 90s, oh, that's 90s R&B. And because in the 2020s we've seen a lot of pastiche work where a lot of music that has been released in 2020s has been music that has been reminiscent of a different era of music, and not really a lot of inventiveness. There's no distinct sound of the 2020s collectively, but in the eras before, there are very distinct sounds. Like when you think about 2010s pop, when you think about Pink and Katy Perry's Firework, and that era of music, Call Me Maybe, there's a sound there. When you go back to the Usher's Imperial era, there's a sound there. When you go to Michael Jackson's Imperial era, there's a sound there. You go to Whitney and Mariah's Imperial eras, there's a sound there. And those sounds are brought to life by the people at the helm of the production. Again, like I said, artist to artist, the artist involvement varies for sure, but these producers are the architects of sounds, right? So some so because of that, we can kind of classify producers into two categories. So there are producers who create songs. So producers who are so obviously influenced, kind of like artists as well, like so obviously influenced by the reigning sound of the era, or their idols and whatever, and they create songs that are very much in the vein of those people. And there are producers who create eras. And those are the people that are responsible for when we say there's the 90s sound, there's the 80s sound, there's the 70s sound. That those are producers that interact with the technology of the time. We've talked a lot on this show about how technology is such an important guide and is so responsible for artistry, because music and art responds to the technology available to us at the time. So these are people that are very in tune with the sound or the technology of the era, and they allow it to influence their own sound. But also there are people that come from such specific sonic backgrounds that it stands out from everything else that's happening, and it sounds so interesting that everybody wants to do it, right? So their own personal taste essentially helps create this era. And today I'm really grounding. Oh, before I continue, I want to talk about Quincy Jones as well. Let's talk about Quincy Jones. Quincy Jones is responsible for Michael Jackson's Imperial era. So, oh, sorry, Imperial era in pop music, for anyone that doesn't know. For everyone that doesn't know, okay, every musician, every artist that becomes like a super big pop star, and there are not so many of them in the entire world, but the average lifespan of a successful pop career is usually about 4 to 5 years. It's always an anomaly when a pop star is culturally relevant and like really, really, really popular for more than half of a decade. So that's when you have the Michael Jacksons, the Beyoncés, the Madonnas, the Whitney Houstons. But most pop stars have like a good 4, 5, 6 years, sometimes 2 album, 3 album run where they're like, oh my god, this person is the hottest thing in the world. They're da 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 da, and that's called their Imperial era. So that's even for the biggest pop stars in the world, they have Imperial eras as well, but theirs might be more extended than the regular average Joe pop star. So after their Imperial era reigns, they either like dip like into like nobody remembers them, they deep into obscurity, or they stay in the public consciousness. Like we still know who they are, people still pay to see their concerts, but like if they were selling out stadiums before, now they're only selling out arenas. Like, so that's what the Imperial era is about, because nobody stays on top forever. And as we've discussed on this podcast, the sound of popular music changes every 3 to 4 years. So every 3 to 4 years we dump a old sound and we embrace a new one. So if you spent your entire career building up toward a specific sound, when everybody moves on, you might still be in that same sound, but everybody else has moved on. It's not always a signal for you to evolve and change your sound, because as we've discussed on this podcast as well, music is cyclical. So if we've dumped a sound in 1 year, we will come back to it as a people, but there's no real telling when. So a strategy can be to remain in your sound and stay with what you know and what you do, and wait for the tides to come back to you. And then by the time the tides come back to you, you have also evolved as an artist, and you can move the conversation forward. Or you can be like the Rihannas and the Madonnas of the world and evolve at such an incredibly dizzying pace to follow the evolving trends of popular music. Or you can set your own trends like the Beyoncés of the world as well, where like you kind of hit or miss, but you are trying to stay ahead of the curve so that you don't let the changing listening behaviors and attitudes affect your artistry. Okay. Whew. That was, listen, if nothing, I break stuff down on this podcast. Like I get into the weeds, because I just don't want to. I understand that a lot of people that listen to this are music heads and love music, but there's people that listen to you and listen to just because. And so there are things like Imperial era, they're like, what's that? So like I want to make sure that like we're trying to hit all the things, right? Today's conversation though, we are talking about Nigerian popular music. And if you trace the evolution of Nigerian pop music over the last 20 years, you don't just see artists rising, right? You see sounds shifting, patterns forming, identities emerging, and behind those shifts, you see producers. we've had a whole episode on this podcast about how Afrobeat has become calmer and chiller, and it's not as brazen and loud as it was before. And that is huge in part of because of the producers who have come to the fray in the time that it has evolved. So those producers have moved as they've become exposed to different things, have they become exposed to different things and become fans of different types of music and different types of artists. It reflects in the music that they make for the Nigerian artists, and that also turns into the discourse. But at the center of now, this is where things can get interesting, because this is my podcast. Some of these are facts, some of these are my opinions. This is my opinion, but I think it's a fact. I could be wrong though, but it is my opinion that I think it's a fact that at the center of the evolution of Nigerian popular music is Don Jazzy. I just don't like, if you study Nigerian popular music seriously, Don Jazzy is just such an integral part of it in all its different eras. Since now, I think in the episode when we talked about Afrobeats evolution, we talked about how Afrobeats went from being this very like experimental play thing that wasn't taken so seriously by even the artists and the people who listened, to something that becomes like very serious. And I think if you start tracing it from there, Don Jazzy has kind of always been there. His role in the actual sonics of things might have evolved over the years, but he's just always been an omnipresence in Afrobeats. And I think that's important. I think that, again, if you think I'm wrong, then but because his presence is such a staying power in Afrobeats as we know it today and as we knew it back then, I think he's the perfect person to talk about when talking about producers and the influence of a producer on a genre or on the music scene, right? But this episode is not just about him, right? We're not going to, this is not a Don Jazzy lifetime special. So we're not talking about where he grew up, if you started singing in church, all that. No. But this is not that episode. We are talking about in this episode what he represents. Like I said in my intro, I'm using him as a persona to center my conversations about producers and production. So it's about what he represents, because Nigerian pop is not just artist driven; it is architected. So, but to understand the Don Jazzy effect, again, I want to kind of paint a clearer scene of what came before. Early 2000s Nigerian music, very vibrant, right? Very, very, very dynamic. It really, when you go back and listen to early 2000s Nigerian music, it really does sound like pots and pans and people talking on top of things. Like you can hear people figuring out how to use microphones. You can hear people figuring out how to mix and master. It's very, and those things don't become stable for a while. Like I think it really does take a while for Nigerian popular music to settle into this very clean, balanced sound. That takes a journey, but early 2000 music is very, very, a lot of it sounds like demos. But it was vibrant. And because everybody was still figuring stuff out, it makes sense that it wasn't unified, right? So there was obviously the high life influence, there was hip hop influence, there was R&B influence. I want to give a shout out to a band called, what's their name? Style Plus. Because when you go back and you listen to what Style Plus was putting out, and at the time that they were putting stuff out, I listened to their contemporaries at that time. It really is amazing. Like I again, popular music changes so much and people's taste in consumption changes so much. But Style Plus, really, I wish that as a culture and as a people, we had preserved them for longer as A-list musicians. Because again, like you go back to, like, go and listen to Olufumi right now. Pause this podcast, go listen to Olufumi right now. It sounds immaculate. It still holds up. Like there's the vocal production, the lyrics, songwriting, the delivery, the mixing, everything sounds really, really clean for the time when it came out. Like go and listen to the songs that came out around the time that Olufumi came out. There's a difference. And I don't know too much about Style Plus, and I've not really gotten to, but that's something I think about often. I want to also give a caveat and say that I'm talking specifically about Afrobeats here, and Afrobeats as a popular mainstay. Because what just came to my mind is that if you go and listen to early King Sunny Ade records, Immaculate. I said early, every King Sunny Ade record. I know KSA has been around for forever, but KSA was KSA was KSA. I should do a KSA episode for y'all because I feel like the kids today don't know the importance of King Sunny Ade, and they don't know who he is. King Sunny Ade was using like engineers from abroad to record his music all those years ago. Like, he's no joke. You go and listen to King Sunny Ade albums and records now, immaculate. Like Samba, like any KSA album that you listen to. So like, I'm not involving him and artists of that stature in this line. I'm talking specifically about Nigerian popular music, which I wouldn't say KSA was in how we think about that, right? It's very modern sound. So, people like that, we have to keep out this conversation because KSA was putting out just clean music from time. Okay, cool. Where am I? okay. So we're talking about what are we talking about here? We're talking about the sound of the time. It was not unified. There were different influences: high life, hip hop, R&B, and artists were experimenting, trying different things, pulling from everywhere. Some artists were pulling so hard from everywhere that their songs sounded like, I'm not gonna call names. I'm not gonna say their names, but if you know anything about early 2000s Nigerian music, you know that there were an artist or two who listened to American radio and say, you know what? I like this Chris Brown song. Let me make my own. And they would make like almost word for word, synth for synth, bar for bar. Yeah, I'm not gonna say their names on here, but if you know, you know, and if you don't, I think you can Google it. I think you could. There are some of them that they're like, their songs are distinctly just copy versions of existing pop songs, and that is to be expected, to be fair, right? Because if you're trying to figure stuff out, most artists, when you're trying to figure stuff out, you are literally just recreating your faves. Now, some people do it to, ad nauseum, but, that's a different conversation for a different day. So there wasn't a single dominant sonic identity in popular music, Nigerian popular music, Afrobeats with an S. At that point in time, there was no clear direction, there was no consistent structure. But the culture was alive and the sound was still forming, and Nigerians were listening to Nigerian musicians, right? And this is so important because last week's episode we talked about record labels, and why record labels are so important. Record labels and producers in all music spaces, but especially in the Nigerian music space, as we're talking about and understanding today, are very important because while the culture was alive and people were gravitating towards the sound, then came More Hits Records. There's a reason why Nigerians have a fondness for More Hits artists and More Hits songs and that era of music. And the first one, I think, is subconscious, is what I'm trying to prove here, is that there was a cohesiveness to the More Hits sound. There was something similar. There was a More Hits cinematic sonic universe where all these songs existed and interacted with each other because the artists were on the same label. So there were collaborations that interacted with each other. There were influences that interacted with each other. There was a branding that interacted with each other. And what More Hits does more than anything to me is it unifies the very chaotic early beginning of Afrobeat and gives it like a cinched in sound. Like, this is the sound of Afrobeat. And when you hear it, you know it. And it's just very obvious. Listen to Tongolo, listen to Why Me, listen to You Bad. It's bright synths, playful melodies, clean structure, confident delivery, performance over anything. And in the More Hits universe, we have these two main players. There's D'banj and there's Wande Cole, and they both bring slightly different things to the table. So where D'banj is, a lot of D'banj's charm is his larger than life personality. So on the record, you can hear him be an entertainer, right? Like, you can hear him entertain, and you can hear there's not a lot of like technical singing going on, but it's melodic, and it's just the production is throbbing and he's with it. Where Wande Cole comes in with more melodic, Wande Cole has a more melodic, pointy and like a sniper, very like exacting precision when it comes to his melodies and how he's delivering them. But because, again, we're talking about producers today. What grounds them in this sonic universe and what makes everything super tight is Don Jazzy being the producer. So these art, so he's playing to the strengths of the individual artists on the label, and they're able to find all these different pockets in the same universe, right? So it's different artists, but there's the same sonic fingerprints, and that is the moments in my thinking and my research that Nigerian pop music starts to sound together and intentional and stop sounding scattered. And that's where we talk about more hits, we talk about Don Jazzy, right? Because we talk about Don Jazzy like an individual, but what the more I like did research for this episode, what I came to understand is that Don Jazzy is a system, not just a person, because what he created was not just music, he created a system. And so going back to our producer conversation, right? Because there are different varying levels of producers and different varying levels of the say of the producer in what the artist is doing. The producer being the record label as well, because Don Jazzy here is doubling as both the producer and the record label. So he's both in charge of the sound, literally, and he's also in charge of the image and how it's promoted. So Don Jazzy understood what Nigerian audiences liked. He understood that Nigerian audiences really, really liked American popular music. So that even throughout Mohit's catalog, there are very direct influences in terms of production styles and technique that are pulled from the Western audience. But also, while Nigerians like that exported Western value in their music, there's also a very Nigerianness. There's a way like all those churches in Nigeria that they don't have roofs, like their roof is like pan. I know how people play drums, how people drum in those churches. That's also an aspect of Nigerian culture that he's able to bring into the music. Like there's a rawness and this is for you to dance and this is for you to feel good vibe that he's able to mix in with the westernness of it. And because he understood what works in Nigerian clubs, he understood what works in Nigerian churches, to be honest, what works on radio, what sticks in your head, he's able to create this sound. And all of this is to say that he made a system for it. Those songs are maybe at first not intentionally so, but there's a system of repetition in the formula that more hit songs had, and why they were received and why they are so beloved. So he's not just making a hit, so the label is literally called More Hits, but he's also making a sound that could produce hits. And that's formula, that's the difference. And that's when this is also where you see, like with producers in general, I think about producers who make songs and producers who create eras. With producers who create eras, they know what works, for whom it works, and how to adjust accordingly. So we are able to again create a sonic style, which is very important. Style is not the most important thing in music, but it's so important that you have your own style. As an artist, artists are very encouraged to have their own style, but I think a lot of artists think about having their own style as a fashion branding thing. But sonically, having your own style is what is going to elevate you or make you not memorable. How you deliver, like there's a way Michael Jackson delivers his vocals. There are little, there are things that he does. There's a way Beyonce delivers her vocals. There's a way Brandy stacks. There's a way Jay-Z raps. There's a way Biggie raps. Style is what. So there are people that are talented, and people that are talented and have style. And sometimes there are people that don't even have talent. They just have style and they're able to break through the mold. So style is very important for everyone in the music industry, but no one more than a producer. Because when you have your own style, you kind of, every good creative that I respect has limitations. So for every successful creative, and this is not just the music dependent people, for filmmakers, for photographers, most of the best, for makeup artists, like for most of the best creators in the world, they have their toolbox and the things that they have to use when they are working, and the things that they will not go out of the bound of usage when executing. Even when they have the means to, they stick with some of the same elements, some of the same tools, some of the same programs, some of the same brushes, some of the same product or whatever. I said, God, these are my tools that I'm going to use to color my drawing. Now, I can draw my drawing in any way. I want it to be different every time and experiment every time, but I want to have such a mastery of these tools and these products that I'm using that becomes my style. One of the ways you can tell, especially when I'm working with in production, and I've had the chance of working with a lot of producers, is that some people just use everything all the time. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I guess that could be its own style, but like the best people stick to a couple of things and find inventive way to move them around. I think one thing my mom used to say to me when I was younger was that not when I was young, period. When I was younger, she used to say that being fashionable or being stylish is not a matter of how many clothes you have in your closet. It's about how many different ways you can wear the clothes you have in your closet. So obviously, like, if you love fashion and you love style, you want to get as many clothes as possible. But what can you do with basics? Like, if I give you a white t-shirt, a pair of black pants, and black loafers, what can you do? Like, how can you make that interesting? And in my own thinking, which I kind of agree with, that's how you know someone has style. It's not like every time you go out, you can buy something new if you want, but if you have one statement piece and a bunch of basics, how are you combining that every single time to have your own style? Like, what is your perspective? What does that say about you? Some of my favorite just collaborators in general, not even sticking to any particular form, they have a style, they have a voice, they have a perspective, and perspective is taking that back to production. Perspective is everything. There's this perspective of, I want to make songs that make people be happy and hopeful, and that's a different perspective from I want people to dance and sweat, and that's a different perspective from I want people to move around and feel energized. What is your perspective, and how can you make that work with your collaboration, right? Your perspective is important. Oh, let me plug myself back in with Flow again, coming out May 15. For Flow, we worked on a visual thing, announcing the song and whatever. And one of my favorite things as someone who likes to collaborate is that I always have ideas and I always have mood board and I always have references. But I think I've been very blessed generally in my career to be able to work with people that I'll say, oh, this is what I'm thinking about, and this is what I want to accomplish. And they will find ways to, within the sandbox or the toolbox of what I have asked for or what I'm saying, elevate it in their own specific way. Like, say, like, okay, this is the idea, this is the mood boards. So with Iggy, I had, like, again, my template, my mood boards. What I want to do, I want to let go of something. I had the whole, I will sit down, I'll take the jacket off, like, this is the vibe. And he was able to, like, say, okay, I see where this is going, and this is how I would do it. What do you think? This is how we can elevate. This is how we can come up with a style out of it. And what's even better, what I also really enjoy, and I've been really blessed to work with a lot of storytellers and creatives that understand this, is that they use your past work to reference the work they want to do for you. It's so cool. So for the Flow visual, a lot of when we're talking about the references and how we're going to do this and do that and the other, a lot of things that he was pulling from were from videos I had done already. So it was like a lot of, oh, you did this because we shot a number of videos, right? So in the different videos, he's referencing, oh, I saw you did this video, and I think this is your style, and I saw you wore this, I think this is your style, but still using his own skill set to elevate the entire thing. So back to production. Losing the plot. I have to remind you guys, we lose the plot quite a lot here. But again, style is important. Don Jazzy understood style, and he was able to bring a unified sound to the Afrobeats genre at those early critical stages of when it was evolving. Now, I, like with everything, nothing good lasts forever. Nothing good lasts forever. We have this growing music scene that's really popping off. It's popping off globally. There's global recognition coming in. There's money coming in. Real money too. Good money. Good money. That early Afrobeats money was good money. You know what I'm saying? And the inevitable will happen. There are big egos in the room. everybody's talented, and a breakup happens. So in 2012, Mohit split. And do I want to dive into this? This is important to a conversation we're having today. Let me see. I don't think so. So Mohit split in 2012. So let's move on. And suddenly the sound fragments, right? Because the artists that made up Mohit, they go in different directions and they use different producers and then different identities form. But what the Mohit splits really showed us was that we knew how critical Don Jazzy is and was to the fray, to the discourse and to the contribution. But when the people that became mega superstars from that collaboration become superstars and they are unable, for the most part, to recreate any is any the right word, to recreate most of the success they've had when they were under the label, it tells you something. It tells you how critical Don Jazzy is as a collaborator with them, right? And for the first time, you can hear what the system was holding together, because when that system disappeared, the cohesion disappears with it. And I will say, I've said this a lot in the past year. A lot of my friends are listening to this, who recognize me saying this a lot in the past year. Not everybody is replaceable. Everybody is not replaceable. Everybody is not replaceable. Everybody, you can get there are replaceable people. Let me start from there. Okay, there are replaceable people. And when I say that replaceable people, what I mean is that there are people whose contribution, maybe the contribution to begin with, was not like even the most whatever, what I'm saying, they're not contributing that much, so you don't really miss them. So the people that you don't miss, so those people are replaceable. But there are people, especially in a creative partnership or in a creative collaboration, there are people that are not replaceable, and it really would take them not being present to see that they are not replaceable. And that happens a lot in music, where like this artist and this producer, or this artist and this director, or this artist and this they work together for whatever, and then again, things happen. I think everybody knows this. Things can get complicated really easily, and not that anybody in the conversation in the forum means for them to get complicated to the point of no return. But that happens. It's part of life. So I'm not even saying this to knock on anyone who maybe they lost an important collaborator, or they lost an important team member, whatever. I'm not saying this to knock them, but what I am saying is that not everybody is replaceable, because when whatever happens, whenever the dust settles from whatever has happened, you realize, or either as the audience or the artists themselves, because sometimes the artists themselves don't realize that not everybody's replaceable. To their audience is like, hey yo, what happened to him? What happened to yeah, you need to get him back on. You need to get him back on, because what is this? What is this? So sometimes the artists themselves don't realize it. They think, oh, this is my da 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 da. But as the audience, you can hear and be like, or you can see and be like, yo, you need to get back in the studio with so and so. This is not it, mama. This ain't it. This ain't it, mama. This what is this? And I think as well, for musicians specifically, losing important collaborators is yeah. I feel a lot of empathy or sympathy. I don't know which one for the people for this Mohit story, but just the artists in general. When you have to reshake, you have to be like, okay, because in the same vein of people, not everybody being replaceable, is the same. In that same vein, you have to also still understand that as a creative, you are the thing, you are the source, and no matter what rotation of collaborators or artists that you're in the say of, no matter what scene you're in, it's very important that you remember you're the source. Yeah, even if the collaboration was 50-50 or 60-40, you were that 40, you were that 50. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of artists are not able to get to that point where okay, you lose an important collaborator, it's things you're starting over, and it's okay, this is the time to go back to basics and be like, okay, this part of my whatever is gone. Let me not recreate. This is a trap that some of my faves fall for. When you lose, but I think again, it's the reason why they fall for that trap is because they are not honest with themselves that not everybody's replaceable. Because if you believe that everybody's replaceable, who needs this person, I'm better of that bad person anyways, then you think that what you did the last time you can do it again. That literally doesn't make any sense, because the only reason why you did it the way you did it the last time was because you were doing it with that person or with that team or with that whatever. So when that whatever severs, the next point of action should be like, okay, let's not recreate that. That was a great moment in time. We made those bangers, we made those great visuals, those great records, those great films, those great whatever. Great moments in time. Put it on my wall. Wow, what a time. You had to have been there. Let me make something new. But a lot of artists that have that, they fall into the trap of like, no, you know what? Screw that person. I never needed them anyway. It was always me. Anybody coming to you, Otis, and I'm going to do it again. You can't do it again, kiddo. You can't. No. No. You should make something new. You should make something different. You should go back to the drawing board and be like, okay, we're here. Let's take all that stuff off. Okay, now let's think ahead now. Where and this is another thing, another line that this draws out for me is the importance of taking a break when it comes to making art is so important, because as we've established earlier, perspective and artistry are 1 and 2. But if you are operating with the same perspective that you were operating working with a former collaborator, you are not able to find your new perspective, and that's going to be a problem. Because apart from feeling stuck, what also is going to ensue is that you are going to not be able to tap on any new doors, like art-wise. Like it's taking a break and be like, okay, let's buy a new board. Okay, this is the new board. Then when you buy the new board, the first thing would be to bring out the things that are native to you, because when you collaborate often, and not everybody's I love collaborations are my favorite thing. I throughout my discography, sonic wise, visual, everything, like I always love working with people. And because I have so much experience collaborating, when I say collaborating, I really do mean collaborating. Like, my motto has always been the best idea in the room wins. Not my idea. My idea doesn't have to win, whether it's on the record, whether it's on the whatever. Like, there's a reason why we're collaborating, right? And because of how much experience I have collaborating with other people and creating a work and sharing with people and wanting them to bring their own life and art into it, it helps me know that, like, when you need to go back to the drawing board or whatever, you have to start with something that's native to you. Because what happens when you collaborate often or a lot, or even sometimes, is that a lot of stuff that happens in that collaboration becomes a very mixed bag. So there's a lot of stuff that's happening there that is not native to you, that you didn't put there. Not even you wouldn't have put there. You didn't even just put it there. That it didn't come from you. But also, the stuff that didn't come from you is part of the reason why something is so successful, right? So then, when you are going back to the board, it's important that you go back to what is native to you that you can put there, and not try to subconsciously recreate what somebody else brought to the table. Does that make sense? So like, you collaborate often, and there's not everything has this specific style. Figure out which part of that style came from you and is native to you, and figure out which part of that style is not yours originally. You are influenced by it, but did not come from you. Pick the part that came from you. Put that on the mood board, because that's what you have control over. You don't have control over the stuff that's literally that's why you pay people to do things. You pay for perspective. So when you don't have that perspective, find what is native to you, then build around that. But a lot of artists don't have that foresight, and it tells whenever a working relationship is severe. It's like, okay, yeah, Bele. And again, I'm not saying this jokingly. Trust me. Trust me. I know. Oh, I know. I know. I know, kiddo. Yeah, 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 I know. But again, it's you have to remember you are the source, right? Again, you are the source. If multiple things can be true, not everybody is replaceable, but you are still the source. Yin and yang. Okay. Okay. So Mo hits these bands, and everything I've just kind of described, some artists experience that. And for some of them, there's never really a return to the form. Because their key collaborator, Don Jazzy, they no longer work with him, right? And it tells in their branding, in their musical. Because even one of my favorite things about myself, and I think about any responsible adults, they are responsible artists, that there are people that can tell me no. Like I I don't put anything out without having not a lot of people, and that number I guess has dwindled a lot recently, but I don't put anything out by showing it to people that I trust. I mean, like, what do you think about this? And when they give me like biting feedback, there's a song, it's not out yet. There's a song I I'm working on, quote unquote. I'm done with it now, but it's just not out yet. And I sent it to my friend Obuese. And Obuese said, this bass line is rubbish. Well, he didn't say that like that. He said it in a nicer way. But it was like this bass line. Yeah. What is what is this? I like the bass line. You know, like let me say I like the bass line of that song. I didn't think about it. It wasn't something that I thought about. And he didn't say it in a mean way. Like he said it in a very gracious way. Like obviously sends me like notes. And I'm always again like the work is your baby, right? So when somebody critiques it, like your first reaction is like, "Oh, that kind of hurt." But then after the next is to move from that hurt immediately and be like, "I trust this person. How can I rectify it?" And hand to heart, like anyone that I ever sent something to, even my videos and things that I send people to watch, if they give me feedback and that I didn't see a perspective, I'll go in and I'll fix it. I will touch it up. I will redo it and whatever. Or like there's a song I have called Femi, and I sent it to my friend Ivy at the time, and Femi is one of my favorite. I can't believe I wrote that song. I really really love Femi. Like it's a song that like I in my mind I would imagine I would write something like that, or it's something that I would just like if somebody else wrote it I would really love. And the fact that it came from me, I was like, oh, I love this song so much. So I was in the studio. We were recording for the EP that Femi is on, and I think I recorded Femi on the first day, so I had 2 more sessions. So after the first day, I get the demo and I send it to Irene. She's like, "Oh my god, like this is really nice, but like the first verse is really wordy." I was like, the first verse I just recorded. And so my initial reaction is like, "Oh my god, that hurts. I love my first verse." Then I go back and I listen to it and I'm like, I actually hear what she's saying. Like even then I'm thinking about myself having to perform this song live. I'm like, this is a lot of syllables. So I go back before the next session and I rewrite the verse, and I start the session. I'm like, oh, can we just go back to Femi? I want to change the verse. We record the verse, and the verse I have now is just so much better. Like it's literally, it was again. There's like a little bit of pain and hurt, and even effort. Like anyone that knows how studio sessions work, because I was in a studio that time. That's money per hour, but like that feedback helped me, help the song, whatever. And what happens a lot of times when people lose important collaborators is that they don't have someone that will tell them no. Someone will tell them that do that verse again. This verse is actually trash. Don't wear that. Heavy on don't wear that. And because when you have a long staying collaboration with somebody, you get to a point of comfort where like whatever feedback or critique they give you, you know for a fact it's from a good place and from love, and you just trust it. That it even stops feeling like it stops feeling awkward and stops feeling like an insult or pain, because like, oh, is this person I'll change it. But when people change collaborators, which happens a lot of times, that they change collaborators to people that are yes men or people that just don't get it, and tells on the work, right? So a lot of people that were in more hits, they had like a lot of that, a bit of that. And again, my heart, not saying this in any way to make fun of anybody. Trust me, I get it, and my heart goes out to them. But that's just the reality of the things that happened. So then, when that era disappears, and again, this is why I think Don Jazzy is such a. You guys, I'm gonna take a second, take a sip of water, please. Give me 1 second. Okay. Oh God. Woo. Okay. Back on it. So when that first era of more hits disappears, and why Don Jazzy is so important is that Don Jazzy is able to prove that he is in fact the person that you cannot replace, because he comes back with Mavin Records, the second blueprint. And what Don Jazzy is able to do with Mavin is, I don't think we realize how impressive that is. I being able to have such a cultural behemoth monster like Mo Hits, that it was a star maker, a cultural presence, they have that be a key factor in having that, watch it dissolve, and then go and re-strategize and come up with Mavin, and watch Mavin have another like incredulous run of star making is so out of this world, because Mavin Records is essentially the same mind but a different era. And a lot of Don Jazzy's intuition with how he runs Mavin, you can tell that he really took notes from how he ran More Hits, contract wise, branding wise, structure wise, makes things tighter. And then, because now the environment has also changed, by the time Mavin comes up, streaming is rising, the global attention on Afrobeats is increasing, and the audience is no longer just Nigerian. And he's able to evolve that sound again. In the intro, I talked about how his actual sonic contribution varies between More Hits and Mavin. So with Mavin, there are more producers. I don't know how hands-on he is still on the day-to-day weeds of Mavin Productions, but however, his presence is still there, and he's able to build two of Afrobeats just like most undeniable stars with Mavin. Oh, three. Tiwa Savage was from Mavin. She's no longer there, but Tiwa Savage is an OG Mavin girly. Rema and Ira Star. Yeah. Shout out to everybody else. And you know what? Throw my boy Johnny Trill up in there too. Yeah. You know what? Throw Johnny up in there, because while Johnny may not have the global mainstay of Rema or Ira Star, Johnny is so niche, and that niche is, I would love to have Johnny. If there are people whose career like I don't know if envy is the right word, but I really do admire, and Johnny Drew has to be one of them, because Johnny Drew's career is so specific to him. It's not something that you can just replicate. It's so specific to his skill set, his personality, and it's so successful. I've said this before on this platform countless times. We do not all have to sell out stadiums all over the world. We don't. Like, it's. Oh no, I was talking about this when I was talking about. I think I was talking about the Nollywood episode with Kemi Adetiba. I was saying that not everybody has to be on Netflix, and so people should be on YouTube. It's not a diss. There are forms of music and forms of artistry that thrive in intimacy, that thrive in being a select. That's how they work. Adele is a great example of this. There are forms of artistry that don't need, the megawatts and the whatever, but that does not unsuccessful them make. That it's I think Johnny Drew's career is just so impressive to me. Like, just conceptually, like, as a Nigerian that makes music in Nigeria with a mostly Nigerian target audience, but to have that kind of music come out of you, that level of songwriting, that level of singing, that level of production, and plus Johnny is also, you know what? Yeah, I throw my boy Johnny up in there too, because Johnny also is responsible for producing a lot of records and writing for other Mavin artists. One of my favorite songs from last year, I think was probably my most played song last year, All the Love by Ira Star. Guess who is there in songwriting and production credit? Johnny Drill. So yeah, Tiwa Savage, Rema, Arasta, and Johnny Drill, and God bless everybody else in Mavin. Because I'm just talking about the mainstays, right? So Mavin is in no way, shape, or form More Hits 2.0. It is a new system for a new world. But the only common denominating factor is that Don Jazzy was involved in both, right? And that shows you that shows you Don's ear. It shows you his mind. So, excuse me. It shows me his ear. It shows you his mind. It shows you that he's able to create structure and is able to create intent with his music and how he directs his artists, how he teaches them to make music. And I think with Mavin, we are seeing him really trust the ear of the artist. So like definitely Rema is one of those artists that you just know that Rema is really involved in his production and how he sounds and how he looks. And even the decision as a producer and a label head to give him that amount of leeway to trust the artist to do their thing is still props to him. And he still goes in the studio. They still play him things. He gives notes here and then. I forget what song. Ira was in an interview and she's talking about like her playing things for Don and him giving them feedback. So he's still involved, right? But that is just a show of how important he has been. And this is now throughout the entirety of Afrobeats. So we're talking about More Hits to early Mavin. So early Mavin is Ricardo Banks, it's Dija, it's Korede Bello, it's Tiwa Savage, it's Dr. Sid. And we are transferring from early Mavin to the new era of Mavin. We have Crayon, we have Rema Ira. This is all these artists and all these eras is literally the entirety of Afrobeats with an S history. And this one producer, this one man has been there throughout the entire time, right? But as much as I love to give Don Jazzy a call out credit, as we've done for all of this episode, he's not alone. I mentioned earlier on that Afrobeats had multiple architects. I talked about Pheelz, and I talked about Fresh, I talked about Speroch, I talked about Young John. But Sarz's importance to Afrobeats to me is that he makes Afrobeats the kind of Afrobeats that Sarz makes to me is not, it doesn't sound exported, it sounds imported. I don't know how to explain it. Like there are some Afrobeats producers that they sound like the music is going to be exported from Nigeria to the world. Sarz makes Afrobeats like Afrobeats is in the world already. Like he makes, I don't say Western sounding Afrobeats because that's not what I mean. I just mean that like it doesn't sound like he's trying to export it anywhere. Like his sonic choices, the kind of pads he uses, the kind of the tempo at which he drives things, the pockets he plays into, they sound already universal. He's making Afrobeats from the place of global dominance already. He's he's fighting from a place of victory. You know what I'm saying? Like it's minimal, it's intentional, it's space driven, it's cognizant of the Western trends, but still very centered. And then there's Pheelz. I talked about Pheelz already. I think Pheelz's importance is Pheelz is very melody first. Pheelz is a melody first, hook heavy. Like that is someone that knows how to write a banger, and because he knows how to write a banger, he knows what he needs to make to service the banger. So Pheelz's production is in service of the melody first. It's in service of the hook. Everything that he's building around the structure of the songs is to bring the hook to you. Like what is going to drive the hook. So his production is not distracting. I think that's my favorite thing about Pheelz is that Pheelz's production is very focused. Like it's very pointy as well. Listen to the melody. Everything is pointing you to the melody of the song. Everything's pointing to the melody of the song. Then we have to talk about Magicsticks as well. I think Magicsticks, just in this new wave of producers that are really doing their thing. Sungba, Magicsticks is percussive. Is a percussive guy. It's about the tempo. It's about the beat. Magicsticks makes music to me that is most, out of all his contemporaries, is most reminiscent of early Afrobeats. his music is most like in terms of tempo and production in that layer. So these are producers that, again, they don't make songs, they shape the direction of the genre. And at any point in time, when you look at the top 40 Afrobeat songs, they're there in one way or the other, if not them directly, them influenced, them them in variety. But yeah, it is. I wanted to just give a shout out to the other producers as well, because like while Don Jazzy has been this mainstay, there are people that have come in the years following that have really contributed some of our favorite songs ever, and I think they deserve to be shouted out as well. One of my favorite eras of Afrobeats was the pom-pom sound, the pom-pom era, production wise, because I think that was my first realization. That was the first time I realized how much Afrobeats borrows from other genres and makes it its own. And my thoughts about that were further confounded with Amapiano's influence in Afrobeats, because when Amapiano came on, it was like, yo, what are we? You know what I say? Everybody had a log drum and was not afraid to use it. But all of these different pom-pom era, the Amapiano sound, even when we talk about Afrobeats getting slower, what all of these things have in common is that one Afrobeats producer or the other is like, let me try my hand at this, and they tap into something, and everybody's like, oh, yo, we got it. So even the way that Afrobeats evolves to these different pockets and genres and gleans and takes from them, that is a result of the personal taste of these producers as architects trying their hand at something and it's sticking and working, and then everybody wanting to recreate it. Because while artists deliver the sound, the producers are the ones that decide what the sound becomes. Like I mentioned earlier, this producer profile is not unique to Nigeria. For Pharrell Williams, Timbaland, each one of those people, they shape their eras, define textures, and they change expectations. So the difference is not that Nigerian producers matter more. It's that here you can hear it more clearly, because we have Afrobeats is still a baby. It's still a kid. Still a kid. I will say that and this is kudos back to Don Jazzy. One of the things that we've been able to lock in, even though it evolves from year to year with Afrobeat production, is rhythm, structure, and space. Because in Afrobeat, as you know, rhythm is everything. So if you control the rhythm, you control the culture. So how fast we are dancing, people don't even think about this. Like, think about what it meant to dance in a club in 2013. Okay, think about what it meant to dance in a club in 2016. Okay, think about what it meant to dance in a club in 2025. Yeah, the dances are different, and drastically so. Some what counts as like you are dancing, the energy wise, steps wise has changed a lot, and that's because the BPM and the production has changed as well. So even how much we exert ourselves when we're having fun and doing all those things, that is controlled by the producer. That is them controlling the culture. So we talked about Don Jazzy a lot here today. I talked about his different influences, and I just want to say, just as a tying in of the bow, what is the Don Jazzy effect, right? My hope is that after listening to this podcast, like, the Don Jazzy effect that you are able to take out from it is that it's not just influence and it's not just success. It's just not just numbers, don't like check the scoreboard. It's architecture. What Don Jazzy has shown and proven to us in all the eras of his production life and span is that he has the ability to define a sound, repeat it, scale it, and evolve it. Heavy on the evolve. The evolving is very important. And once you can do that, you're not part of the culture, you are shaping it. Yeah? But yeah, that is what I have for you guys today. Want to give a shout out to one of my favorite producers that are not Nigerian producers, Western producers. That I'm gonna put it in the universe, and I want to work with them. Max Martin and Shellback. In Jesus' name, I'll work with you one day. Jeff Basker. In Jesus' name, I'll work with you one day. Ryan Tedder. Ryan Tedder, introduced him. I work with you one day. Just I want to put that into the world. I want to put that in the world. I want it to be there. I want it to be there that I said, so that when I work with him, I'll come out this episode. I said, back in 2026, I put out this podcast. I said I'm going to work with Chef Basker, Ryan Tedder, Max Martin, and show back, and here we are. So one thing I want to talk about, but I don't think I've had my thoughts around this built enough, is I want to kind of talk about the finances of producers. So like in recent history, and if you're an upcoming artist, you know this for sure. I think more than anybody else is that producers are now asking for different things pay wise than they've asked for before. So in terms of splits and things of that nature. But my thoughts on that are not fully formed yet. I think about it. I think I have a direction where I think it through, but every day it's in and out. So I think I'll just revisit that for the different podcasts, and we'll talk about it then. I think that's where we'll wrap things up for today. So here is something to think about. When you say you love an artist, what part of that love belongs to the producer? And when you think about that, what I always do, and I don't think everybody should do this or everybody has to do this, what I always do is like just as a music listener, consumer, when I love a song, when I hate a song, I'll go to the Spotify song credits and find out who made it. And I start to see a pattern in this person's name showing up. Even for songwriters, like, okay, you're on my list now. I love you. So I'm a big fan of promoting the idea of listening to producers, not just artists. Like, find a producer, listen to their work, and see how it evolves. Because most likely, if you like a song that they or two that they did, you probably like what they do for other people. So I'm always a fan of like listen to producers as well, not just artists. Anyways, if this episode changed how you hear Nigerian pop, please share it, because once you hear the architecture, you can't unhear it. Thank you guys so much for listening. This is episode 19. Is that not crazy that we've been doing this consistently for 19 weeks? That's crazy. But I appreciate everyone that listens. The numbers are going up, so please keep sharing. If you have not liked, comment, or subscribe on whatever platform you are doing, please do that. It really does help a lot. It really goes a long way in helping me spread the word of the podcast to the good people of the world. You know what I'm saying? And like, I've plugged myself already. Let me properly plug it now more even, because I'm really excited. I really love this song so much, you guys. I really, really do. It's just like it's just a great thing as an artist when you hear yourself grow. It's amazing. I love hearing myself grow. And even now that I've made songs after Flow, I hear even more growth from then to there. So it's just really cool. But my baby, my first music release in 2 years. 2 years is crazy. But yeah, Flow, she comes out May 15 on all streaming podcast platforms. And again, if you go to my Instagram bio and click on the link, you can pre-save it there. Or anywhere. I'm at Adiolu Music on all platforms, and the link is on those platforms. And I have just such an exciting year for me in general, like life-wise, but music-wise and creative-wise. Like I'm really excited. I'm really pumped. I'm really, really, really pumped. But yeah, Flow is coming out. Please show her love when she gets here and go do all the things. It means a lot to me. Anyways, we've now made it to the end of the episode, and I will never leave you without saying greatness isn't a moment, it's maintenance. As long as you are still practicing, you are still progressing. And progress, my friends, never loses. Till next time, stay crowned. Goodbye.